In the previous lesson, we walked through the first two steps of the 4D road mapping process. We determined which target KPIs to move and did a constrained brainstorm of objectives and initiatives that would effectively move those metrics. In this lesson, we'll walk through the final step, prioritizing those objectives and initiatives into a concrete roadmap, again using the Reforge 4D Roadmaps template to apply the knowledge. This step requires prioritization at two levels. First, at the objective level, and second, at the initiative level. This two-stage prioritization is critical to creating leverage via focus and buy-in. Prioritizing the objectives creates focus by ensuring that your initiatives aren't spread thin trying to accomplish too many different objectives. Instead, they should be heavily invested in accomplishing a few. This pursuit of distinct objectives also creates a clearer narrative and rationale for your roadmap, making it easier to get buy-in. Let's first talk about objective-level prioritization. The goal of objective-level prioritization is to identify a portfolio of 1 to 4 objectives that will have the highest impact on your target KPIs, while balancing across lenses. There are several guiding principles for accomplishing this prioritization. Prioritize multi-lens objectives. Prioritize lenses based on company stage. Avoid over-indexing on any given lens, and consider diminishing returns. Let's talk about each separately. The first guiding principle is to prioritize objectives that fall under multiple lenses. During your brainstorming process, you might find that some objectives can fall under multiple different lenses. This is often an indicator to work on them first, since you will achieve multiple benefits by solving them. If the objective falls under both the strategy and the customer lenses, for example, you can achieve both the short-term benefits of showing that you are listening to your customer, as well as the longer-term benefits of fulfilling your strategy in a needle-moving way. In contrast, single-lens objectives only further you towards one dimension. To illustrate this, consider NoteJoy. They were deciding between two major objectives: implementing Zoom integration or improving the quality of SEO signups. The Zoom integration was part of both the customer and strategy lenses. On the customer lens, there were lots of existing customer requests for it. On the strategy lens, it would help accelerate their dominant channel strategy, virality. Users generally need to send out the meeting minutes after Zoom calls, creating a viral hook for those receiving the notes to sign up. In contrast, improving SEO signup quality was primarily focused on just the strategy lens. Although improving SEO signup quality would help create a second major acquisition channel, no users requested it. NoteJoy could accomplish far more impact by implementing the Zoom integration, and as a result chose to prioritize it in the end. The second guiding principle is to prioritize lenses based on company stage. At a high level, the life cycle of companies can be divided into 3 parts: pre-product market fit, post-PMF scaling, and post-PMF maturity. In the pre-PMF stage, you've launched a product but it hasn't gotten strong resonance in the market yet. At this stage, you focus primarily on customer and strategy objectives to guide the needed improvements to your product. You are generally building a lot less from your business and vision objectives, since optimizations are unlikely to help you attain product market fit, and at the same time, your long-term direction is still quite unclear. In the post-PMF scaling stage, you've gotten a signal that your product is what the market wants. Here, you are focused on fulfilling the demand. In this stage, you might need to implement more heavily from your business and strategy lens. You focus on the business lens because there's likely still significant low-hanging fruit from immediately implementable optimizations. You also focus on the strategy lens, especially accelerating acquisition. You've likely figured out retention at this point and can focus on acquiring as many of your target users as possible. The vision lens tends to be less important in this stage, since there's still significant opportunity left in the current core product. Finally, in the post-PMF maturity stage, you lean more heavily on long-term strategy and vision work to keep yourself growing. By this point, you likely need to start thinking beyond your initial audience, meaning you have to start expanding outside current customer feedback. Additionally, your low-hanging business fruit likely has been picked, meaning you have to focus on bigger, more needle-moving wins from your strategy and vision lens to make a significant impact. The third guiding principle is to avoid over-indexing on any given lens. As you learned in Lesson 1, each lens has distinct blind spots, with cues when you've over-indexed on them. Remember to check those cues for over-indexing to see if you might be inadvertently doing so. The last guiding principle is to consider diminishing returns. Diminishing returns refer to the concept that if an objective was already attempted, investing again will yield progressively smaller returns. This is because if low-hanging fruit has already been picked off, it'll become a lot harder to get a similar magnitude of returns for similar effort. For many companies, improving new user experience through onboarding changes tends to be a major source of gains the first few times it's worked on. However, after your initial couple of optimizations, it takes increasingly more effort to yield the same gains. Armed with this information, do an initial prioritization of your brainstormed objectives in your Reforge 4D Roadmaps template. Once you've prioritized specific objectives, you can then prioritize individual initiatives within the objectives for the roadmap. At the initiative level, you can use a scored assessment approach, like RICE, to evaluate the remaining initiatives. When RICE is the only approach, we run into the challenges we mentioned, roadmaps that are unfocused or too focused on incremental results. However, doing RICE for prioritization is okay at this point. You've already narrowed your focus to a specific set of objectives from multiple lenses. After calculating a quantitative score with a method like RICE, we then need to supplement our prioritization with qualitative considerations. This is because these qualitative factors aren't always easily captured in a simple quantitative score, and we want to allow experience and intuition to play their key part in prioritizing. Exact qualitative factors will vary, but some common ones to consider are perishable opportunities. Some initiatives may be time-restricted opportunities. If you don't launch the initiative before that date, you miss out on a significant opportunity for making that initiative impactful. For example, Airbnb's biggest spike in travelers and bookings comes in the summer. Because of this, Airbnb's host team knew that if they were going to launch an incentive program for new hosts to sign up, they would have to do it before summer started. Cross-team dependency. Some initiatives will be significantly harder to implement than others, due to the involvement of other teams. These initiatives have to have a larger impact to be worth prioritizing in order to offset cross-functional complications. Adam Fishman says, I assume that anything that requires support from another team's roadmap will be more than twice as difficult because humans. For example, Patreon's complete restructuring of its pricing model required sign-off and support from not just design and engineering, but also finance and marketing. Consequently, they had deprioritized it until it was clear that the returns were worth the complication. Sequencing. If an initiative has low impact and high effort, but it lays the foundation for other high-impact initiatives, consider prioritizing it. For example, Airbnb recently launched flexible date search, allowing people to search for a general weekend getaway instead of weekend getaways on very specific dates. In order to do so, they likely had to re-engineer a significant part of how their search coding worked. This code re-engineering likely had very little initial impact on business outcomes, but it enabled flexible dates, which likely had a much larger impact. Initiative-specific interest. Team members might have a particular personal curiosity about an initiative. This enthusiasm often translates to a better executed initiative, meaning it should be prioritized higher. That covers the major qualitative considerations. We suggest now taking some time to do your initial prioritization of your brainstormed initiatives using your Reforge 4D Roadmaps template. After you've prioritized your objectives and initiatives, you can then lay them out on a standard roadmap template that plots them out by month and quarter. Feel free to use your own template for this, or refer to the Timeline Layout tab of the Reforge 4D Roadmaps template. Since most roadmaps have objectives laid out by workstream, we've also added a workstream column in case it's relevant for your team. The roadmap might look visually similar because it follows the same visual format that a rice roadmap might produce. However, the thought and process you've used to create this roadmap should help generate something far more powerful in content and impact. Because you've used the 4D road mapping process, it should feel more focused and needle-moving in the work you're taking on, with a clear rationale and narrative to sell to leadership and your other stakeholders. This initial roadmap represents only the first part of a broader road mapping OKR process, though, where you learn from your execution to make even better product decisions in the future. In the next module, OKR loops, we'll cover the next part of this broader process and how to systematically learn from your execution.